Welcome back, guys, to my YouTube channel. Today I have my sister here, and we've been thinking about it for a while now to speak about our journey here, like to Germany, because we are Nigerians. We stayed in Nigeria for like 10 years. Or I was in Nigeria for 10 years. You were in Nigeria for 14. And
years, yeah.
And we then moved to South Africa, and I was in South Africa for 8 years, so I did my high school there. And my sister was in South Africa also for 8 years. Seven. And so from South Africa, we then came to Germany. And so what we want to speak about today specifically is my sister's story on her coming to Germany. Do you want to take over, give a short introduction? What was your motivation, right, in wanting to come to Germany? Main driving goal, like for example with South Africa and the few opportunities that they are for like foreigners in South Africa, for example, to study or
So I'll try to summarize and just say the most important points. So I finished high school in South Africa. Then couldn't find a scholarship because my parents couldn't afford that. So I was then looking for other opportunities in South Africa and outside. I didn't find the opportunity that I ended up finding in Germany, for example. In South Africa, I didn't find that, and that's why I'm in Germany. I decided after a while of looking for different opportunities, educational opportunities, that I wanted to start off something different. I wanted to just discover myself. So, one day I was scrolling through YouTube, and I just saw this recommended video, and I had this pulling in my heart towards this video. And there was a video of a lady speaking, a Kenyan lady speaking about how she moved to Germany for a year, volunteering, and I thought that is just really cool. And I was like, okay, interesting. But then she had all the requirements and everything, and I was like, I don't know any German, I don't know how to do this and this and this. But I had this tug in my heart, like you can do this stuff, you know? But I had no idea. Anyway, fast forward, I found different opportunities, applied to these opportunities, like these volunteering opportunities in Germany. And without a certificate, without a language certificate, I did get accepted. And I came and I passed the visa process and everything and came to Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
With researching opportunities, right? Like how, for example, you said, I like how you already said, okay, it was the lady, you found a video. Right? It's interesting to see how God orchestrates one steps, right? Because you found this video and then you knew, okay, I am going to then research more in the direction of Germany, right? Because Germany was not on our radar. Everyone is always if you want to make it, America is the land to go and make
or
it.
Canada,
right?
When they speak English.
Exactly. And so picking a region, I believe that answers that question. Okay, how exactly did you know what region do I want to go and study in or volunteer in? It was through that video that you just mentioned. Okay. And what advice would you give someone who is then looking for ways to remain open-minded in their search, right? Or what preferences? For example, there are a lot of countries in Europe where English is spoken, right? But for you to really live and become a part of the community in that country, you have to speak and understand the language, right? So those would be factors to look at when you're deciding, okay, which region do I actually want to go into specifically? So what advice would you give to someone that's thinking about, okay, where should I go?
If I were to give an advice to someone about what they want to do, just look at your goals generally, and if you have it on your heart to only study and you don't feel led at that moment to learn the language first, like you're just thinking, oh, I need to study and I need to get a bachelor degree or whatever, then maybe that's the way to go about it, you know, because everybody's path is just different.
I just wanted to add something to that, like the opportunities in Germany, right, that one has. Like, for example, you could come here and study, right, study either, if your course is offered in English, then that, good for you.
There are a lot of courses
that are offered in English,
yeah.
bachelors and masters.
Yeah.
And you could, however, they have what I would call like in English vocational training and of Deutsch apprenticeship and Ausbildung.
Yeah.
So basically, it's theory and the practical side of it. So you would go to school. It's called a Berufsschule. And you would then have a company in which you were like getting hands-on experience, right? In South Africa, we'll call it like a learnership.
Yeah.
And so that's another opportunity, and you get paid for that. You don't pay to study; you get paid, right? You're working because you're going to school and you're working at this like company where you're getting your practical experience from, and they pay you like a monthly salary.
Yeah, like a stipend.
Exactly.
So to speak,
Exactly. And what I find really good about that is that, in contrast to just going to university, you are not only getting like theory, but you're getting hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Because I know today is not about my story, so I won't get too much into that. But seeing how pivotal it is to have hands-on experience, to have an idea of what it means to be in like the Arbeitswelt. What's Arbeitswelt? Working world.
So to speak.
Exactly, and it's very, very necessary to have working experience, and I believe an Ausbildung is a really good combination of both.
Yeah.
And the last opportunity I want to mention is also the volunteer one. So ein Bundesfreiwilligendienst oder ein freiwilliges soziales Jahr.
Freiwilliges soziales.
Genau.
Ja,
genau. And those are two opportunities where you are, and my sister, that would be like, we'll explain what that is, like what that looks like concretely.
Yeah.
But just to have like a description. So there you're volunteering at a place, and from my experience, for example, I had I believe 38 or 40-hour week. Yeah. And so every day I know, okay, I'm working in this department at this place, and I'm going there, and I'm basically a worker, but I'm getting like Taschengeld. What's Taschengeld?
Pocket money.
Pocket
like
money,
really
exactly.
Small stipends.
So it's not like, I'm getting paid like thousands of euros, but I'm getting paid like what is sufficient for me, right? And at the place where
that amount.
Exactly, where we volunteered, they'll give you housing and also food, right? And then you have money for like just other things that you want to do. But also for like, we were also paying for the housing out of the money that we got, right? But it wasn't like a crazy amount. It was like
really little.
Little. And the living conditions were really good. Like really, really good.
I think we can even say how much we got. Like, okay, I don't know about you, but I can say how much I got because I've passed that thing, that process or that stage, and I went on to do an apprenticeship, and I'm done with my apprenticeship now. So I mean, I think I can say, how much we got. In my case, I think I got 500 euros, if I'm not mistaken. I paid 100 for housing and 100 for something else for food. But the food we got at the same place that we got in the same...
breakfast, lunch and dinner. It was all covered.
And everything in between. And we were left with 300. So, of course, 300 euros is like really little. Excuse me, but you're not paying taxes, because you're volunteering. And it's like it seems like some sort of good work for the society and everything.
It is a good work.
It is a good work. But you're not paying anything, any taxes. Well, you don't earn a lot anyway, so... so we had 300 to spend, so we could just buy little things, but not too much, and but that's the way we live. But we had like food and housing, and that's like the most important things, right?
And I remember still even having like money to I could save, right? Because
Yeah.
like when you think about it, apart from okay, I'm putting aside money to like buy clothes or to buy like toiletries and stuff like that, because you
Yeah.
have to buy those.
Yeah.
And but you still have money if you say, okay, I want to put aside like 50 euros per month or 100 euros per month, depending on how much you spend, right? So you create a budget for yourself depending on how much you spend.
Yeah.
Spoke to language acquisition. Could you like speak about what that means, right? Because I remember one thing that really a lot of people here are impressed about is like, okay, you've only been here for like, okay, for example, my sister's been here for like over 2 years, and I've been here for like over a year, and we speak really good German because we hear that from Germans, and it's like, okay, they're not going to lie to you if you're not speaking good German, so just take that and accept it as the truth, right?
I mean, there's room for improvement, and
exactly,
I'm very, very harsh on myself.
Definitely, but for like the time, like frame that we've been here, right, it's really impressive, and I want you to speak to that because I learned that from you. Right, it's like you like send like John the Baptist to make the way, to prepare the way, and sorry, if you're Christian, you get that. And so I want you to speak to language acquisition. What does that look like, and how did you go about it?
Language acquisition is basically how I see it is you trying your best to learn a language the way a child would learn a language. Or how you as a child learned your mother tongue. Basically, you were not there trying to like memorize grammar rules or anything. Like even if they tried to give you grammar rules, they were not going to make any sense. So what did you do? You just literally listened and watched. You listened and you watched, and you did that over a period of time, and then started producing. So you did the listening part for a long time. Meaning you then started to understand things a lot, but you could not produce on your own, and that's okay. But you were learning, like that in itself is language learning. And after a while, you start producing little by little. Maybe it's just one word there and there, and then you produce a sentence, and then the sentence is probably like a bit wrong there and there. But you have an intuitive, you gain an intuitive sense of the grammar of the language, so to speak. You get an intuitive sense of the language, and that happens over a while. Like I was still listening to like this 3-year-old on YouTube, and he was then speaking in English. He's an English kid, and he was speaking in English, and he would then make some mistakes. He's a native speaker, but of course he would make some mistakes there, and one would tell, his brain understands a lot of the language, he's just learning how to put that together. And no one then says at that age, oh no, you can't speak this language, like terrible or so. No, they're like, yay, even when you're like making those mistakes as a kid. It's like that's part of the process. But first you have to listen a lot, and you have to like, the word is input, like a comprehensible input.
And to input, I remember, because when we're still in South Africa, you were preparing to leave to Germany, and you kept on saying,
doing it in faith because I've not gotten any.
You kept on saying 100 hours. I need to get 100 hours in.
First,
like first 100 hours of just input,
hours,
right? And like my sister is, guys, I don't think I was even like as I don't know what the word is, as like talk as she was, right, in like the input, right, at least before I left Germany. I think it was when I got to Germany, then I really started working on that. But I really like what she said, like getting, like just basically soaking yourself with the language, like hearing it over and over and over and over again.
And I did that primarily with watching videos, because to me, again, I was trying to imitate this process, right? And I'm like, okay, this process of like learning as a child. So I'm like, okay, how do children do this? Like they watch their parents speak to them all the time, or watch kids these days would then watch like television, and they're seeing and looking at the lips and listening to what they're saying and learning that way, or how things are said to in this certain with a certain nuance to it and everything, like all together. And I decided to do that. So I would just watch a couple of things. Like I started with basic Peppa Pig. Like I watched Peppa Pig oh my gosh, in German, for like all the different seasons of Peppa Pig. I watched all of them on YouTube. At that time, we could watch it on YouTube, and everyone would probably call me like weird, like why are you watching a kid's, you know? But I found that was like already at that level that was hard for me. Because it's spoken at a normal pace.
That's the thing. Like people would hear, okay, you're watching like kids shows or series, and they think, that's dwarf or that's silly. But then you start listening and you realize, I don't understand Jack. Like I don't understand what they're saying, and you realize, okay, this is a foreign language that your brain literally needs to learn from scratch as a child. Yeah.
So I watched that. I watched Peppa Pig. I watched a combination of many things, but mainly on YouTube because I wanted to see. I wanted audio visual at the beginning. Like I feel like that's very important at the very beginning of your input process, and I learned that from another guy that's been doing research in this field of like language acquisition. And I focused on audio visual, so I would just watch that. I would also watch YouTube channels that based their videos on this type of research, like on input. So there was like a lady who would, I'll see if she can link that in the description.
Yeah, definitely. Like we're going to put, because I was just thinking about it now. Yeah. Right? There are going to be a lot of links in the description below to what we watched, what we listened to,
and still
places to apply to, and all the things. So that's going to be in the description.
In the description. Okay. That would be cool. But anyway, I just watched so many things. I watched kids, stuff for kids, a lot. I watched Lego. A lot of Lego kids building blocks things, like
and
I watch all these Playmobil.
Oh my goodness! I would see all these recommendations on my phone and they're like, "Bro,
watch with her phone as
what's going on here?"
I watch with my phone, watch with her phone, watch with my mom's phone. I watched everywhere I could watch. And went on. I just kept watching and started noticing. Oh, I understand a bit more. And then I would watch the next level, and then I would like look for like, okay, videos for kids that are like 7 years old or 8 or so. Then I would watch those. Then I started watching like kids documentaries. Those were hard, but I would still press through and watch them because there's so many things to understand about a video and not just the language. Like there's so mimic and all these things that you learn with language acquisition and the culture and all of this. Like there's so much you learn about that, about the language and the culture itself in language acquisition instead of focusing on grammar. And I just saw that, whoa, I understood so much in such little time. That was before me coming to Germany. I started this process roughly about 6 months-ish before I came to Germany. That's when I really like went into this because I didn't know if I applied, right? I researched and applied and I didn't know they were going to pick me. I had like not so much faith that they were going to pick me. But again, I had this in my heart where I was always like, oh, hey, like they could pick you and you need to be prepared. And I would
be prepared.
And I would start watching these videos in faith, so to speak. And in this process where I started, they said, I got the contact back and we had an interview and they picked me. And I was like, okay, well, this stuff is about to go down. It's happening. We need to ramp up, and I just started listening away.
Like literally every single, like my sister would listen for like hours. 4, 5, 6, like hours.
2 to 6 hours every day.
It was wild. But it paid off because without, like, my sister has not done any language course, any German language course. Like, I even did, like, a German language course. Like, my sister has done no German language course. And she finished her Ausbildung that was for the duration of 2 years, right? And she's now working part-time, right? And she understands the language, can speak it very well. And so you might be asking, okay, does it work? Is it going to pay out? It does work, and it does pay out because she's like a living testimony of that. Myself too, but like,
yeah. I mean, that was the entire process, and it's not like a straight process, so to speak. You have like ups and downs. And you don't always feel like, oh, you're moving forward. And then 6 months, if you continue that 6 months in, you're like, oh, I understand that. And it was when I got into my class, for example, into my apprenticeship class, for example, where I then had other people from outside the country who was doing the same program, and I would just understand these things normally, what the teacher was saying normally, and to them, I was like, what does that even mean? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain it, but this is what this means. Like, I just understood many things. It was because I watched a lot. I watched a lot on YouTube.
Different, like, areas, different fields.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I also want to, like, speak to, because there is learning the language and understanding it, and then there's the process of starting to speak it, right? So, like, what advice would you give to someone who already understands the language but has this fear of, like, speaking the language because, okay, maybe it's wrong or maybe they won't understand? Like, what would you say to that?
I would say that it's okay that you're scared to speak. It's not some terrible thing that you're scared because you want it to be perfect. But the first step is to just take little steps out of the fear. Take little steps. So for me, I'm a very, very perfectionist when it comes to language. There's so many areas I'm like, okay, but with this I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to be good. And what I started doing was I would just speak little by little, like 2 words there and 3 words there and the sentence that I knew there. And there have been many cases, and even now sometimes there are just some cases where I'm like, whoa, what I want to say, but I don't know how to really say it. Try to say it in the simplest way possible. Just little words, like how a baby would start, like a word there and a word there and a word there, and then comes 2 words together and three words in a sentence together, and things like that. Just start, but it has to be after you've listened a lot. Like I would say, like 200 hours. Some people don't have that luxury, but you know, some people, for example, you started speaking really quickly, like you started from day 1.
Actually, so
almost from day 1, you didn't even have up to 100 hours.
I think I had maybe like 40 to 50 hours.
You didn't have a lot
so
of
like
hours.
It was very, very, very little.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good answer, and I just want to add to that, like, just for, at least for me in my case, in like language speaking, I'm not like the perfectionist. Right? So a lot of people always like, and I'm always very open to correction, right? And my pastor does that a lot. But one thing that just really helped me was just to start speaking, and I'm so grateful for like the community I was in. Right? It was such a safe space to like just make mistakes. Right? I remember coming to Germany, and like the first, I'll never forget it. The first, like literally the first that I came here, the first sentence that I said was "Ich bin Hunger." Or I wanted to say like I'm hungry, right? But it's so "Ich bin hungrig" or "Ich habe Hunger," and I said "Ich bin Hunger," and my roommate was like, "Do you mean you're hungry?" And I was like, "Yeah," and like but you see, such instances like that, right? It was such a safe space where I was like, okay, they would correct me and they'll say, okay, this is what it means, that is what it means, right? I don't know if that's funny. It was so
good. For me, if I did that, like I would just want to disappear into the crowd.
And I was like, yeah, let's keep it pushing. I'm here to try. Like we got to see it through. So I would say just like to overcome that fear, right? Just like speak.
But again, like everyone is different in that case. I had 2 things in mind. First of all, for if you're someone who is not really big on the pronunciation and how your accent is, then you can start speaking from the beginning. But if you're big on your accent, I'm big on how I sound, how the accent, because I want people to understand me, right? Then I would recommend that you just wait. I remember in my volunteer year, I did not speak German. I spoke as little German as I could possibly do. Like I even gave people in the in my VG, what you call VG, in my apartment. My dorm.
I don't have like an English word for it.
Let's just call it an apartment, a house where we're all staying together. And the people around, I said, please give me 6 months or so. Like I'm not speaking any, and I explained my method of thinking. And I said, I'm not speaking any English, any German. I'm just going to speak English because I'm trying to acquire this language. And they were like, okay, whatever. Because they were fascinated by the fact that I could understand a lot. That I could understand, and I could understand jokes. For example,
I feel like with a language, the moment you start understanding jokes, you know, okay, I've reached like a certain level. Like I've reached a certain level, and that's the thing. Like that's what we mean by like learning the language as a native speaker.
Yeah.
Right. So that you can then really understand what these people are saying when they're speaking to you.
The nuances in a different, like so many things in just language.
Because like also there's like the sarcasm in German and irony, and it's like these are things that you can only get a wind of when you actually have like a was ein Gefühl für die Sprache.
Yeah, you have to have like a feeling, like an intuitive
for the language,
intuitive knowing and feeling for the language and in the language, and that comes from immersing yourself in the language.
Yeah.
Without trying to produce first, because like I feel like at the beginning you're just like wasting your time trying to produce and putting so much energy out, and it's so hard. But if you can just take it all in and just be like a baby and just enjoy taking it all in first, which was what I did for the first year. Like I just basically kind of tricked them into not speaking language at all. I would speak a bit here and there, you know, to the people who didn't speak any English at all. For example, my boss in my department, I had to speak German to her, and some older people. But the people that I knew understood. Like in the house we stayed in, I did not speak. I almost spoke nothing. That's and what crazy. Is so interesting, and it's so fun because anytime I tell people that like in my first year I spoke like 90% of the time in English, they're like, so you're saying that you started speaking German in 2023 or so, like in 2023, like they're like, hey, but how do you speak so well? I'm like, I don't know. Every day I kept listening. I would not speak as much, but I would be listening even more.
Interesting enough, like with me, it was like as I was working, because as I said, I had like I believe 7 to 8 hour like day shift work English, and I would always just like listen to German music, German worship music, and also a lot of podcasts. But I also wanted to like start speaking as well, so I would speak. Right, so I would say like it was 70% listening and 30%
for you
speaking for me.
Yeah.
Where my still was like
90%. I was like
10%.
Even feel like
95 and then like 5% speaking. But that's a lot that has been said to language acquisition.
Yeah.
As I said, we'll put in links,
some
right,
links
to especially for German, right? Resources, videos you can watch, like playlists and all the things. How would you then say once you go about researching places to find volunteer opportunities?
Now again, I always say in my case it was the Lord that really like led the entire process, but I saw a lot of people talking about volunteering in hospitals and in healthcare organizations, and I was like, I'm not made for that. So the different volunteer places and projects and organizations in different fields. There are the ones in health, there are cultural places, which is where we ended up doing. There's so many things. There's music. There's so many different places where one can volunteer in, and there are different links. So I think that the best possible way to do that, which is what I did, would be to check out those links and to apply to those different places. One should actually just be open-minded about it and not say, oh, I want to, if I don't go to Berlin, the world is going to come to an end or something.
Because like where we volunteered was like in English we say like in a village.
It's a village.
Literally. And it's not like I know village you think of like if you're Nigerian you think of a woman like sweeping the floor with broom door. But interesting enough, like it's still modern.
It's a modern
like
village.
A modern village, because I remember like places like where we stayed was like really well, but it's like it's a village, right? I drove.
Yeah.
You know, and
a really small village.
But the amount of like security and also like safety is the word in actually exploring the language, because if you're if you're volunteering in a big like institution, right, in big cities, right, there's this pressure to really like get everything together like in a short amount of time. Like there's this then also you might then feel like, okay, maybe there's this expectation that I need to like get everything or get really have control of the language, right, and speak the language to a certain degree, like how I'm hearing it, but like I'm just learning the language. And there's one thing I do have to say though, that German knowledge is necessary. Right, like you have to know. Yes, you can speak English, you can speak any other language, but you have to know German. For example, if you're volunteering at a hospital and you have to maybe prepare a consultation room, right, and like a patient is asking a question, like you to understand what this patient is saying, right, so you can help, or so you can even like if you can't answer, then like pass that message across to someone else, right, but you have to first understand the message.
I think that's like key. That took me, for example, that understanding, because as I said, I didn't speak a lot in German. I spoke only English mostly, but that understanding kept me at the job, so to speak. Like I understood literally 95% of everything they told me. Like I didn't have to ask like 3-4 times what does that mean,
to work,
you know. And I understood, therefore I could carry out tasks, right? And it's the same thing with you.
We're going to like wrap this up now.
Okay.
But I just want to speak to, so we spoke about like the application process, so finding the country, Germany is a country, but then researching and looking into, okay, where, in what field do I want to apply? Or do I want to work? So that's where I'm going to apply to, right? And then, exactly. And then deciding, okay, what documents do I need to get together? Obviously, that would then, you would know that based on what they require from you, right? But there are other things that might not be mentioned, right, that you just need to know about. For example, like visa, tickets, insurance, and other things. I just wanted to like speak to that as well.
I think this varies from country to country though. In like
we're coming like what they
require, but you know, I mean, there's some basic things, you know, language certificate. In my case, I avoided the language certificate because although many people said that was not possible, but I avoided that because of the visa interview, not the visa interview,
the work interview,
or the volunteer interview. They were so what's that word?
Impressed.
They were so impressed about my entire language, whatever, you know, and skills and everything. And they were like, I couldn't speak that much at all, but I understood them well. Again, I understood them well, and they didn't have to repeat. And so they saw all this potential there. So to them, they thought I already had some language certificate or something. So at the embassy, there's a rule that if you can get a letter or something from the institution saying, oh no, this person has sufficient language skills from what we have assessed for them to work here or for them to volunteer, then you don't need to provide a B1 certificate, for example, an A2 certificate, which is something that one can look into. If you don't have all the money to like go to a school in South Africa that costs I don't know how many euros. That's just a thought that one can play around with. But other things that would be needed would be like travel insurance and all of that. They'll probably like, these companies always try to work with other companies to make sure that you are like fully prepared. But you have to be insured in Germany even before you come in.
But the institution actually did that for us.
In your case, they did that for you, exactly. And in my case, they did that. We went to the same place. Another thing I would say about insurance is like if you're traveling, for example, from South Africa or from Nigeria or an African country or any developing country or whatever, like, you know, okay, you probably need a travel insurance, so that's something that you might want to look into. I'll try to see if I can give her some links to the travel insurance that I got.
Okay.
It wasn't, I thought it was fake, but it ended up being real, and it wasn't it wasn't expensive. Like the amount that I paid, that we paid, was really not expensive. So yeah.
And to speak to like what you have to pay, so for the visa, I believe there's a visa fee.
That's
but there's no like, okay, going through an agent
no.
You go to the embassy yourself. You first you apply on the website, and then they give you like a list of the documents you need to bring like to your for your submission. You do all that by yourself, right? And then you go in. I believe you also pay the visa fee online, if I'm not mistaken, or there.
I remember paying it over there.
Okay, then it will depend on
you bring the money, or I mean, you had your card and you paid it.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
You have your card and you paid it.
There's that. So there's no like going through an agent, anything. You do all things by yourself, and like you are made aware of what cost you have to pay. As to the visa, you obviously have to buy a ticket, right? I don't know if it was a one or a return ticket. Does that play a role?
I believe mine was a return ticket.
Okay.
I don't know if that plays a role. I don't know what your ticket was.
Mine was also a return ticket.
My mom was like, make a return ticket. We don't want any problems.
So we did that, and then the other thing you have to pay for is like the travel insurance, right? Yeah. But that is not expensive. It's like those are the foreseeable costs that you would have. I think we should wrap it up here.
Okay.
I don't know how many minutes we've been going on for. But thank you guys for watching this video. As promised, I will put like all the links to the things in the description.
Yeah.
And we might then have like a part 2 where I tell my story. I'm not sure, because it's not really that different. Like exactly to this process of coming to Germany, it's not different, right? But then like after the volunteer year, after the volunteer year, what happens next?
And how
what happens next after the volunteer year? We'll do a video on that as well, because we went like in 2 different paths. So that's going to be an interesting one. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
And ask questions.
And ask questions in the comments. Like if you are set on, okay, you know what, I want to really pursue this thing and you want to get into contact with us, just leave a comment. I'll mostly send you like my email, alright? Or get in contact with you via email. That's it for today, and God bless.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Bye.
That's so good.